I do think we should get her some. So that.
I think we should be her.
What? I mean, I know we're fixing her to get away. Yeah. Long enough?
That's what I'm saying.
What about
Yeah, we got it. You put it like
the
this.
only other one that's on the? I don't think any of these are really big enough for you.
This is a. You got it like this. Hold.
It's just not option to have one for the one. Here,
Sure.
for the most part, I'm done. We'll be back at Christmas anyway.
Nice. Absolutely.
Wow.
Terrible for your eyes, I would say. Oh, so you weren't okay? Because I told
I remember one year we were quoting, I know it's gone up in the cost of steel has gone up substantially. It seemed like it was just for the material, for the 25 or 35. Just for the material.
It's a good, oh no, okay, so I had something, in this magazine.
This magazine, this is the graphics.
Yeah, no, what is it, Revelation 5, and here, I was reading about it this morning, and I'll see, let's see what this is.
For children, because they have mature themselves, or animals. And I mentioned this to them, sending this to them, or to his accountant, who set up the foundation, and I'm trying to get them.
Wow, that's awesome, yeah. Yeah, so, from that estimate alone, pretty pricey.
Morning.
Paw. Paw. Or paw. Target. 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 Up.
That's awesome.
Follow. 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 Side. Side. Follow. Down. Sit. Target. Target. Target.
What's their name?
The white one is Aurora and the other one is Lakota.
Okay, thank you. How old them?
That's a good question. I know they're in their teens.
Teens? Okay.
So they're probably 13, 14.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you.
welcome.
So we did just celebrate 31 years of operation back in April. And since starting operations, we have rescued and rehomed well over 400 animals here. We're licensed by the USDA and accredited by the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries. So what that means for us is that we are a true sanctuary. We do not buy, sell, breed, or trade any of our animals here. We also don't have any hands-on interactions, so no cup petting, touching, selfie taking, nothing like that. The only times our hands are ever on these animals is if they are fully sedated and in need of medical care. And we also don't force the animals to do anything here. They're more than welcome to come and go as much as they please. These animals have had hard enough lives as it is, so we don't want to make things any harder on them. Most of our animals, they are rescued from cases of abandonment, abuse, or neglect. They come to us from a wide variety of places: people's homes, backyards, basements, apartments, fake zoos, and fake sanctuaries. So we take them in and provide them with a forever home and give them the lifelong care that they need. Over here on the right-hand side, there are two different animals that share that enclosure. You'll see a white tiger laying down in the grass. That is Aurora. And that big old orange guy in the corner there, that is Lakota. He looks like a tiger, but he is actually a hybrid. He's what's known as a Thai liger. So he's essentially 3 parts tiger and 1 part lion. And we'll talk a little bit more about hybrids later, like that one, the Tor. And speaking of hybrids, on the other side of these two, the enclosure that's closest to our gift shop, you'll see Fergie. She's a female liger. And she comes to us from Colorado, along with Aurora and Lakota. And this Colorado facility had 115 animals living there, walking around on less than 12 acres of land. A lot of them did not have access to grass or a way to escape the sunlight, and they were forced to walk around on debris like rusted nails and screws and wires that were in their enclosure. So we were very grateful to have much better living conditions here with us. Kind of diagonal to us across the pathway there, that is home to our male grizzly bear named Bam Bam. Bam Bam was rescued from a man in Oklahoma that had Bam Bam, a black bear, and 9 tigers living in his barn in his backyard. He was getting his property foreclosed upon, so we were able to go in there and help get them out. By the time we got there, the tigers were already gone, and we believed they were rescued by somebody else. But the bears came with us, so Bam Bam lives there. And the black bear that we rescued lives at the very end of our gravel pathway. His name is Thunder. And Bam Bam does love to sleep in, so it doesn't seem like he's out and about.
I was gonna
this
ask
morning.
if he was out this morning.
Yeah, it
he was
didn't
out
seem
yesterday.
like he wanted to, but he does love his sleeping in. He's a pretty lazy bear, but he can also be quite a crazy bear. He is a whole lot of fun when he's up and about and moving. He was nicknamed Bam Bam the Ham for a very good reason. He does love being a big old ham for everyone, and he loves playing with his toys, and he loves all of his snacks. And he's just a big old goofball. And if he's not out and about, you guys are always more than welcome to walk down that hillside. And we had no idea that his mother was pregnant when she came to us. And she hid it so well, we didn't find out about Spike until the day he was born. And we just walked in there and saw him laying with his mom, and he's enjoyed life here for the past 15 years. Behind Spike,
What's the lifespan for?
probably about 15 to 20.
That's a little different.
Yep. Now, behind Spike, there are 2 separate animals that do share that enclosure. They do alternate access, so one day one animal comes out, the next day the other one. I'm not quite sure who it is today. Yesterday was Southern, so hopefully there'll be one deer out today. The deers are black jaguar. And so jaguars and leopards, they handle very similar to each other. There are a few differences though. Jaguars tend to be bigger, bigger heads. And there are people who have spots. Both jaguars and leopards have spots that are called rosettes. And on the jaguars, the rosettes tend to be a little bit popular options are Bengal and our Siberian suites. Our Siberian does tend to be the most popular, the one on the very end there. As you can look out the window and see two tigers from your roof. But if you're out here on the porch of either of these two, you can sometimes look across the pathway to see Jake, if he's out in his habitat over here on the right-hand side. But I'm not seeing Jake at the moment. He's another one of our African servals. Yep, he is cold this morning.
Is he in there?
Is he in the pipe?
Is that him in the pipe? There's something in the pipe.
I don't think so.
Okay. He was
Yeah,
down
it's hard to
earlier.
see. Yeah, he doesn't typically come out when it's real cold. But he was rescued from a man in Oklahoma. This man had 300 animals of 81 different species living on his property. He was essentially running an illegal petting zoo, so he was getting his animals confiscated due to the many animal welfare violations that he had. And you'll notice that Jake's home here does have a top on it. Any of our animals that are good at jumping or climbing, we make sure that they have a top to their enclosure. So that is our servals, but also the bobcats, the leopards, the cougars, and our jaguar. We will scooch on up though, and you'll notice that the tiger and lion enclosures don't have a top. These guys are too top heavy to climb vertically for too long, and they can jump, but just not this high. They aren't equipped with the jump guard. Now this left-hand side enclosure does have two female tigers that share.
They were out earlier.
I see Khaleesi hanging out way near the back, but she's kind of hard to see. She's kind of by her pool back there. And that would be Khaleesi. She's a golden tabby tiger. And she shares, oh, and I do see Joey as well. Joey's in the very far back of the enclosure, kind of in that far back right corner. And that's the orange tiger. And these two girls, they came to us from Colorado. And they actually used to share an enclosure with Aurora and Lakota up top there. But Aurora and Khaleesi are in Indiana. Now the owner of the Indiana facility, he had 120 animal rights violations against him, as well as he did have ties with the Tiger King. And in 2020, we were able to go in and rescue 4 lions and 4 tigers from this facility. The animals did come to us in some pretty rough conditions. And in the worst condition of all of them was a male lion named Chief, who was so malnourished that you could count his ribs. And if you guys have been here before, you might have seen Chief in this enclosure with Mari because they did used to share. But there's a pretty big age difference between them. Mari here is 7, Chief is 17, so there's a good 10 years that encouraged us to split them up. And when we split up the animals here, of course the best option would be for everyone to get their own habitat. But every now and then we do have to utilize our double night houses, and we sometimes house 2 animals together. They can't share, and they'll alternate access to the grass every other day. Not ideal, but we do this because of a man in Quitman, Arkansas. This man at one point had 60 big cats that he could no longer care for. 4 of his lions escaped. They were shot and killed. This man then gave us a call, wanting to know how he might euthanize the remaining 56 animals in his care. And we really didn't want that to happen, so we worked with him. We brought back 21 of them here, and we found forever homes for the rest with other reputable sanctuaries. When we brought back that 21, we didn't quite have that space, so that is when we started to utilize these double night houses, and sometimes housing 2 animals together. Now that noise that Mari there is making is called caroling. Lions will carol with each other for a variety of reasons. They'll do it over food, territory, the weather, and out in the wild it is their main way of locating each other. So that's why it's got to be very loud. It can be heard from up to 5 miles away. We'll go ahead, we'll keep on scooching here. Our next enclosure is going to be home to 5 more of our African servals. Their names are Sammy, Enzo, Giselle, Lexi, and Whistler. And all 5 of the servals in this enclosure were previously owned as somebody's pet. Now servals do not make good pets, and there are quite a few reasons. One of the reasons is that they are incredible hunters. These guys catch about 50% of what they hunt. We've got one hanging out underneath the rocks there. You kind of see them in their rock enclosure. Now these guys catch about 50% of what they hunt. And if that doesn't sound like a super high percentage, a lion or a tiger, for example, only catches about 10 to 20%. So these guys are very skilled hunters. And if they are not allowed to expel all that energy to do their natural instinct, which is hunting, and they're being kept in a house instead, they're going to end up pretty destructive and energized and rambunctious. They also have a bite force that is 3 to 4 times as strong as a house cat, so they're not afraid to use that if they ever feel threatened. And they spray. These guys spray about 20 to 40 times an hour, so if they're being kept in a house as a pet, they will not restrain that to a litter box. They're going to be doing that everywhere to mark their territory. And when people realized that servals don't make very good pets, they ended up breeding an African serval to a domestic house cat in order to create a hybrid known as a Savannah cat. Now we do have a Savannah cat that lives in here with our servals. I don't see him at the moment, but his name is Tigger, and Tigger is about half their size. Now his size is not a good indicator of how fierce he is. He's a lot smaller than the servals, but he still likes to pick fights with them, and he lives in here with them. He sometimes does win those fights, so we make it a point here that all of our animals are predators. Not, even if they might seem more domestic, like a Savannah cat or a serval, those natural instincts and that wild aggression can definitely still come out of these animals. We'll go ahead and move on up to our next enclosure, which is going to be home to Montana. In Montana, he's a male tiger that comes to us from that Colorado facility. And he's going to be over here on the left-hand side of the fence, or of his enclosure, kind of near the fence there. And here in his enclosure, along with everyone else's as we go along, you guys are going to see a bunch of stuff lying in there. You'll end up seeing balls and barrels and maybe some cardboard boxes or pumpkins. And all of these items are part of our enrichment program. We use a variety of things in order to provide enrichment for the animals. And enrichment is just going to be anything that stimulates their bodies and their brains, and it's going to emulate natural behaviors for them that they would get out in the wild. So they can play and hunt, stalk their toys, they can bite them and scratch them, and get out all those natural behaviors. We'll go ahead and scooch on up here just a little bit, talk about Robbie. He's this big pure white tiger in this upcoming enclosure. Robbie was rescued from a man in Oklahoma, a private owner that had 6 big cats and wasn't taking the very best care of them. These guys were eating things like roadkill, which did end up leading to some of them being pretty overweight. A typical tiger weighs about 250 to 500 pounds or so, but when we rescued Robbie up there, he weighed almost 700 pounds. And in order to help him lose weight, we put him through diet and exercise. And the best way for these guys to get exercise is through playing with all these toys that they have. Now, Robbie's favorite toy is back there behind his platform. It is that big red ball. Robbie likes to roll it down the hill, and sometimes he will pick it back up in his mouth and take it back up the hill. Now, that ball weighs 60 pounds, so he gets in a very good workout when he decides to do that. And he just gets exercise in a variety of other ways, walking around his enclosure, playing with all the other toys. And since being here, he has lost a decent amount of weight. He's in a more manageable 550 to 600 pounds or so, and he is still getting healthier. It is important that we don't always know the health of these animals before we get them. They can come to us really overweight like Robbie, or they can come to us really underweight like Chief, that male lion that I mentioned, and it is definitely up to us to find the best ways to rehabilitate these animals because the private owners and pseudo facilities that we get them from don't always know the best ways to take care of their animals. And sadly, some of them do know the best ways, but they simply do not care. We will go ahead, we'll scooch on up here just a little bit, and we're going to talk about Savannah. She's this female lion in our next enclosure. She's going to be laying there on her platform. Savannah comes to us from Indiana. Now, for a lot of the animals, it can take them a while to get used to things here. They come from not the best situations, so I don't blame them one bit for being weary of new people or new places. And that was definitely the case with Savannah here. It took her a long time to warm up to us at Turpentine, but these days she does seem to enjoy her life quite a bit. She spends most of her time just relaxing, either laying on her platform there, or maybe up near the night house, or here in the corners. And if she's not doing that, she does kind of like to be nosy. She loves checking up on her neighbors or on animal care as they walk around up top. And she can be kind of playful, but her favorite toy is not one of the ones that we give them. It's not a ball or a barrel. Her favorite toy is actually just a stick. It can be found in her enclosure at any time. And she is the happiest cat around when she's got a stick. She's even been seen picking one up in her mouth and running around the enclosure like a big old happy dog. We'll go ahead, we will move on up here, and you guys are going to notice that our trees inside the enclosures do have fencing, and we just do that so that the cats won't scratch. These guys do love to scratch in order to keep their claws sharp and clean, as well as mark territory. We just can't have them doing that on the trees that could end up falling over, so we'll make sure we provide them plenty of other things. And down to the left, you guys will see some construction going on, and that is our area, new area of our facility that we're constructing called Freedom Field. That is about 13 more acres of habitat that are allowing us to take in a big influx of cats near the end of the year here, about 30 cats, and give them a new home, and they're coming to us from a reputable facility in Florida. So we are very excited about that. Now, over here on our right-hand side, there are two animals that share this enclosure. Right now, I see Bosco. He's this white tiger with dark stripes. But there is another white tiger in here. She has really light stripes. She's a pure white tiger. Her name is Mama. And Mama and Bosco, they came to us from that Colorado facility where they were being used to breed cubs for their cub petting industry. And you guys, for a little bit of context, out in the wild, a female tiger will give birth to her first litter of cubs when she's about 3 to 5 years old. And then those cubs are going to stay with their mom until they are about 2. And then at that point, they would go off on their own. And in these cub petting industries, as soon as the female is physically able to reproduce, the breeders start the process. And as soon as she gives birth, they do immediately take those babies away from her. And her body, thinking that the babies have died, is able to go into heat almost immediately again. And so she is able to produce way more babies than she would naturally. In Mama's case, she was 5 years old when we rescued her, and she had already had 4 litters of cubs that we know of. So that is in the amount of time she's supposed to have 1. Which is of course hard on her, but it is even harder on the babies. When they're taken away from mom so early, they do not get the right nutrition that they need. Then on top of that, people hold them and play with them all day. And all of that handling, mixed with the lack of nutrients, leads to something we see called metabolic bone disease, which makes their bones very weak and brittle, and it's a lot easier for them to fracture or to break. And in these cub petting industries, when people think that they are just innocently playing with baby tigers, they're actually breaking their limbs over and over again. And in the case of the triplets that these two had, there's Mama, she's coming around. And in the case of the triplets that these two had, they were so bad off with metabolic bone disease at first, they couldn't even walk. And now today they do walk around, but they've got a permanent limp because of it. So these issues will follow them around their whole lives. And there are many that aren't even that lucky. A lot of times in these cub petting industries, as soon as the babies get too old to be handled anymore, around 3 to 4 months, a lot of the times they're just sold off to the exotic pet trade or inhumanely put down. And I will say that thankfully, this is no longer legal here in the U.S. As of last year, in December of 2022, the Big Cat Public Safety Act was signed, and it is now federally illegal to have private ownership of big cats like this, as well as it did ban those public hands-on interactions, so no more cub petting or pay-to-play programs, which is awesome, but it is still important to do research, because there are some people that were grandfathered into that law, and if they had their big cats before it was signed, they will be allowed to keep them, as long as they were registered by this past summer. So we will go ahead and keep on moving here. And as we do, you guys might notice that out there to the left, you'll see a bunch of fencing, which is Rescue Ridge. This part of our facility was built back in 2012. There was a woman in Mountain Grove, Arkansas, whose health was failing, and she needed a home for 34 of her cats. We didn't have the space at the time, so we quickly constructed 20 habitats in only 128 days in order to take those guys from her. Now today for us though, it does serve as our retirement area. The land out there is a lot flatter, and so our older animals don't have to walk up and down all these hills and put stress on their joints. And it's a lot farther out, so if any of our animals are more shy or less social, they do not have to be around the public. And they can live down there where they get the peace and quiet that they need. Now, here in this enclosure, we do have a pretty odd couple that share. Right here, laying against a fence line, you will see a female lion. Her name is Angawa. And I'm not sure where her mate is, but she does share with a white tiger named Glacier. I did see him walking around earlier. Now, Glacier and Gala come to us from that Indiana facility where we believe that they were trying to use them to breed hybrids. And they would probably be trying to make a Tigon. Now, hybrids will not happen naturally in the wild. The main reason for this is that lions and tigers don't share territory. Lions are from Africa and tigers are from Asia. Now there's an exception to this rule, being Asiatic lions. There are a small population of them that live in a forest in India, but according to wildlife officials, they're not interacting with tigers and lions, or the tigers aren't interacting with the lions in that forest. So the point still stands that they shouldn't see each other in the wild. But even if they did, they'd probably be more concerned about food or territory than they would be about making babies. They do also have a lot of personality differences, lions and tigers. Lions are more social animals by nature. They're the only big cats that live in groups and act socially. They'll live in prides, and prides can be up to 30 individuals. But tigers are definitely not seeing that many other tigers. They're way more solitary animals. They do see their litter mates and their mothers up until the age of 2. But after that, tigers go off on their own, and they only ever come together if they're breeding. They do also have personality differences when it comes to the cold and the water. Lions are not the biggest fans of those elements. Being African animals, they just don't see them as much. But tigers, they do really seem to enjoy them. Now, the two in this enclosure, they have spent so much time together that they've started to rub off on each other. Angala, the lion back there, she's actually the least social of the two of them. Glacier does like to sometimes come up to her to give her kisses and affection, and she'll tolerate it every now and then, but more often than not, she does just give an attitude, which is a little goofy for a lion. And she is also a little strange because she doesn't seem to mind the cold too much. She's one of our only lions that'll come out and play in the snow. She's even been seen sliding down this hillside like she's a little sled, so she's a big old goofball. But she does keep it typical when it comes to water. She is very much not a fan of the water, so she does keep it typical for a lion there. We'll go ahead, we will keep on moving here. But you guys will notice down to the left that we have a building down there, which is our vet hospital. This was built just a few weeks before that big Colorado rescue in 2016. And it's been very beneficial for us since, because before we did have to take the animals an hour away off-site to get medical care. But these days, anytime we have an issue, we just bring them right down here. And we have a full-time vet, a fully functioning operating room, and 3 recovery rooms for the animals as well. Now this road on our left does lead to the commissary or food prep area. And I do want to shout out Tyson. They donate over 300,000 pounds of meat to us this year. And we do also take donations from locals for things like cattle and rabbits, as well as produce for the bears. I guess at this time we are going to have enclosures on both sides, so there's no one in this first left-hand side. So we're going to talk about the 2 that live over here on the right. Up near the night house, you can see one of them laying down. I believe that one's Athena, but Athena does share with her brother Chuff. And they did come to us together along with their other sister, Abigail. But Abigail does like to pick fights, so she lives down at Rescue Ridge by herself. Now the 3 of them came to us from a facility in Branson, Missouri. And this facility did not take safety as seriously as we do here, because they allowed for staff and volunteers to enter enclosures with their animals. And one day a 16-year-old volunteer was leaving their enclosure when he tripped and fell. And these animals did act on natural instinct, and they immediately attacked that boy and they tried to drown him in their pool. Now he's alive today, but he's paralyzed, and he advocated for these animals to live here, for which we are really grateful, because if he had not, there's a pretty big chance that they would have lost their lives. Since 1990, there have been over 300 dangerous incidents in the U.S. involving people and big cats in captivity. So those are over 300 totally preventable attacks. They are not wild animal attacks. And in almost half of those interactions, the animals are the ones that end up losing their lives. So we are really grateful that that boy understood that this was the fault of the facility, and frankly his own fault, but not on animals like this for acting on instincts that are just so incredibly natural they cannot help them. We'll go ahead and scooch on up here just a wee bit so that we can see Karma on our left-hand side here. She is a female liger that comes to us from a drive-through safari park in Stratford, Missouri. And the owner of that facility was told that he could raise his fencing or he could give up his animals because this man had fencing that was 6 feet high. These guys are definitely capable of jumping 6 feet. And so he was encouraged to go ahead and relinquish his dangerous animals. So that's how we got Karma. Now with her being a liger, we are going to see both lion and tiger features. As far as lion features, her coloration is definitely more lion-like, that tawny color, as well as all those spots that she has all over her, on her face and kind of on her body there. Those do come from the lion side. Lion cubs are born covered in spots that they tend to lose as they mature. What we see with a lot of the hybrids is they will keep them around in some form. And another one of her lion features is that caroling that she's doing right now. She is trying to communicate with the other lions and carol with them, but she's not full lion, so they do not recognize her carol, and they don't carol back with her, which is a little sad. Now you'll also see that her tail is a little interesting. It's got stripes on it like a tiger's tail, but it does also have that little black tuft of fur on the end, like a lion's tail would have. Now she does also have some other tiger features, like the stripes. You know, they're not as dark or as thick as a normal tiger's, but they are there. And she does have these white spots on the backs of her ears. And those white spots help her if she ever feels threatened from behind. If she thought that something was sneaking up on her, all she has to do is flick her ears back and forth, and the white spots actually mimic blinking eyes to anything sneaking up behind them. We'll go ahead, we will scooch on up here. And our next enclosure is going to be this one on the right-hand side with the red platform. And it is home to Fred.
Fred.
I'm not sure if I see Fred. Oh, there he comes. He's going to be walking down this hillside here. He's along the fence line up there. And you guys will notice that Fred is a little bit smaller than a normal tiger would be. He is about 10 months old, so he is still a juvenile, and he's still growing up here. Hey guys, I cannot tell you anything else about Fred. Fred is a part of our witness protection program, so we occasionally rescue animals that are a part of ongoing legal cases. And in this case, Fred's previous owners, they are still in litigation, and so as soon as that information becomes public, we will be allowed to talk about him, but until then, we will have to keep hush-hush. So we will go ahead, we'll keep on moving past Fred. But hopefully if you guys come back in a year or two, we will have Fred's story, and we'll be able to talk about it. And we'll go ahead. Let's see. We'll talk about the two that look over here on our left-hand side. Now there are two that share this enclosure. Right there laying in the corner, that is Floyd. And Floyd does share with a golden tabby or a strawberry tabby tiger named Tigger. I'm not sure if I see Tigger at the moment. But these two, they did come to us from that same, oh, there he is. They came to us from the same man in Oklahoma that had Robbie. So if you remember that big pure white overweight tiger, same man that had him also had these two. Now Tigger here is another one of our golden tabby or strawberry tabby tigers. These animals are very, very rare. They're not a separate subspecies of tiger, so it's just a genetic mutation that can occur due to 2 copies of a recessive wideband gene. And there are many carriers of the gene, but just not very many displayers. There's an estimated only 30 of these guys in the entire world. They're actually considered the world's 3rd most rare creature, so we are incredibly lucky enough to have 2 of them here at Turpentine. And as beautiful as he is, though, he should not exist. You know, they're only man-made in captivity today. They're not happening out in the wild. And the way that it is able to happen is through copious amounts of inbreeding. So these guys do end up having a lot of health issues because of that. And they are not provided the same amount of camouflage as a normal tiger, so they would not do well out in the wild anyway, even if they were out there. Now, in this enclosure on the right, if you guys look up the hillside, we'll go ahead, we'll scooch out just a wee bit, and you guys can kind of see Poncho hanging up near his night house up there. He's a male tiger. that came to us from Colorado. And if you guys remember Montana from the other side of the loop, Poncho there is his brother. So Poncho and Montana did come to us together, but like a lot of the siblings, they didn't end up fighting, so we had to give them their own space. And if they were still walking around in the same enclosure at the same time, it'd be pretty difficult to tell them apart. But you can always tell two tigers apart from each other if you look hard enough at their stripes. No two tigers have the same stripes. They're completely unique to them, the same way that fingerprints are unique to us. And another cool thing about their stripes, they do go all the way down to their skin, kind of like a tattoo. Now we'll scooch on up just a little, and this enclosure, with the two white tigers in it, it's home to Roman and Donner. Roman, he's going to be the one laying out near the fence line there, and Donner is going to be the one up in his night house area. And you guys, white tigers, similarly to those golden tabbies, are not a separate subspecies. They're just a genetic mutation that occurs to a normal tiger, also due to a recessive gene, and it's got about a 1 in 10,000 chance of happening. And it's not going to be seen out in the wild anymore today, white tigers, just because there are sadly less than 4,000 tigers left in the wild. So that 1 in 10,000 chance is essentially slim to none. But even when it was seen, it was still very rare, also because the white tigers don't have enough camouflage to keep them safe out there. And you might be curious, how does a normal tiger have too much camouflage if it's orange and its environment is green? Well, tigers and a lot of their prey are dichromats, which means they're red-green colorblind, and they can't distinguish between that orange or green tone, and therefore that tiger blends in really well to its environment. But white tigers don't have the same privilege, so they stick out like a sore thumb. And so if they're not happening out in the wild anymore today, how do we have so many in captivity? These guys are all inbred in captivity, unfortunately. And one of the last white tigers seen out in the wild was captured on a hunting expedition back in the 1950s. And the people that captured him figured out pretty quickly on, if you breed a white tiger to its offspring, you will increase your chance of bringing out that white trait. And so it led to years and years of repetitive inbreeding. Until today, we can trace all the white tigers in the U.S. today back to Mohan. And of course, all that inbreeding does lead to a lot of health issues for white tigers. It's said about 1 in 10 is healthy, and the rest of them suffer from a wide variety of ailments. Things like cleft palates, crossed eyes, facial deformities, lung problems, skin issues, back problems, cancers. The list goes on. And that is why it's important that anyone who breeds white tigers is probably not doing it for the animal in mind. They might do it under the guise of conservation, but they're usually only ever trying to make $1. And we'll go ahead, we'll scooch on up just a little here. We'll talk about Opie. He is this male tiger laying right here next to his log. And Opie does share alternate access to the grass with Lila. So tomorrow Lila will be out. She's a female lion. These two, they did come to us from Tiger King Park Zoo in Oklahoma. We actually worked with the Department of Justice in the summer of 2021 in order to rescue 10 cats from that facility. And they arrived in some very rough conditions. A lot of the ones from that facility have their bodies covered in scars, that we're not too sure on what those scars are from. They also do have these big permanent calluses on their elbows from being forced to lie on improper substrates. And a lot of them were suffering from this condition that's known as fly strike. Flies will get into open wounds, they will lay their eggs in there and eat away the flesh of the animal, and it's just all around a really nasty condition. And thankfully, through lots of love and care here, they're doing much better today. But I will say that a lot of the animals from Tiger King are going to be on pain management. And it is not just the animals from Tiger King, it's a lot of our animals here in general will be on pain management for the rest of their lives. That is just one of those harsh realities of what these animals have had to go through before coming here to their new forever home. But we will go ahead, we'll keep on scooching here. And we'll talk about Miles. She's going to be in this next enclosure. She's up near her night house, in her night house area walking around. She's a female tiger that we rescued from that Indiana facility. Now, Miles is one of the chuppiest tigers that we do have. And a chup is a happy vocalization for tigers.
It's their way of communicating to one another that they don't want any trouble, they're being friendly. So it's kind of like a sign of submission or just a friendly greeting between them. And it kind of sounds like this. I'm not good at it because I'm not a tiger, but it'll sound similar to that. It's just them pushing out this little breath of air from their mouth in a short little burst. And because they live here in captivity, tigers don't just make that sound to each other, but they also make it with us humans. And so while you're here, a tiger might make a chuffing sound at you, and if that happens, don't worry. Feel free to try to replicate that sound, and you can try to make it back to them, and let them know that you're being friendly as well. But we'll go ahead, we'll keep on scooching here.
Is the toy destroyer still in Japan?
What's that?
Is the toy destroyer still in Japan? I can't remember its name. The one that tears up all the
Oh!
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
We had one that was in here, Snowball, and he loves his toys, yes.
I think he passed away August.
Pardon me?
He passed away August, I think.
I knew they had lost a couple. I just can't remember where they were.
Now this
I
enclosure,
get confused.
it is home to Cairo and Samira. Samira is this female lion. She's laying out here in the grass. And Cairo is going to be up in his night house right now. These two come to us from Tiger King Park Zoo. Now, Cairo, he's not out and about for us to see, but he is one of our interesting hybrids. He is a liger. So, his dad was a lion, his mom was a liger. And these hybrids do have some confusing names, but if you figure out the dad, you are one step closer. The dad's name always comes first. So, if your dad's a lion, your mom's a tiger, you'd be a liger. But if you flip it, dad's a tiger, mom's a lion, you'd be a tigon. Now, the male hybrids cannot reproduce, but female hybrids can, about 50% of the time. So every now and then you can get rare second-generation hybrids, like a liger. Like I said, dad's a lion, mom's a liger. So you can also have ligers, tigons, and tigons, which is pretty confusing. But like I said, you figure out the dad, you are a step closer there. Now, Cairo's not out for us to see, but he's got a very interesting look because he is only about 3 parts lion. Now, he has a mane, but it's not as full or as dark as a normal male lion's mane would be because he is only 75% lion. A male lion would typically have a mane that is far fuller than his other fur, and it's going to be a lot darker. It's going to go down his sides, his backs, his belly. But with Cairo, his mane just wraps right around his neck. We actually call it his reverse mullet because it's a lot longer in the front than it is in the back. Now on the subject of a male lion's mane, the fuller, the darker it is, the healthier and stronger he is. So the male lion in the pride that has the darkest, fullest mane is going to be the king. So if you guys do remember The Lion King, if you remember that movie, Scar and Mufasa were angry over who would be king, and Scar had a pretty good reason to be upset because he did have the darker mane. Now this last enclosure that we're going to talk about today on our tour is home to Raj, Jinx, and Rosie here in the corner. These 3 are siblings, and they love to hang out in a little puddle here together. Now these 3, we actually didn't rescue them from anywhere. We rescued their mom. Their mom was one of the ones that came to us from Tiger King. And we weren't sure if she was pregnant or not when she got here, so we put a camera in her den. And about 12 days later, she went ahead and confirmed that for us by giving birth to these 3, Dodge, Jinx, and Rosie. And when they were first born, we could tell that something was a little bit off about them. We were looking on those cameras, and we could see that they were unable to get their back legs up underneath them. This is one of the first cases of clubbed feet seen in tigers, and our vet did not have too much to go off of, but she did develop a pretty good physical therapy plan for them. And we were able to bring them down to the vet hospital twice a day. We would do things like warm water massages, we put stents on their legs, we ourselves physically help them get up, move, walk around, on top of just general exercises on their muscles and tendons and ligaments. Now we could not do this for too long, about 4 months, just because at that point it starts to get too dangerous. We were taking precautions like muzzling them to protect against their teeth. But you can't do anything about those sharp claws, and they are about 40 pounds at that age, so we did go ahead and cut off the care then. A little worried that it might not be enough time, but it does seem like it was in just enough time. These guys, they do limp every now and then here and there, but it's just so much better off than they would have been. These guys would not have even been able to walk had they not received that treatment. So we are really, really grateful that that treatment paid off and it went well for them. And they do now all walk, they run, they play, and they roughhouse with each other, and they act like the tigers they were always meant to be.
Where's their mother?
Their mother has since passed away.
This way. Oh, okay.
We'll go ahead, we'll head on back up top here. Hey guys, I do like to show off some replicas that I have of a tiger's tooth and a tiger's claw. And I know that if either of you guys have house cats at home, you know how badly it hurts for them to bite or scratch you, so I cannot imagine how it feels coming from one of these instead. And that's just kind of my way of reminding you guys that these animals are predators, not pets. And we do like to say around here, it's not a matter of if they attack, it's a matter of when. And as much as we do love all of the animals here, we shouldn't know any of them. They never should have been subjected to the abuse that wound them up here in the first place, but we are really, really grateful that we can provide them with this forever home and be their forever voices for them and help educate people about their stories and what they've been through. And guys, I do want to apologize. We might get a little loud and a little bumpy as we do head on back towards the discovery area there, so I do apologize. But as a 501c3 nonprofit, every dollar that you guys do spend or have spent here collecting back and taking care of the animals for their whole lives. So I do just want to thank you guys so much for coming out today. Really appreciate your visit. We can't do what we do here without the help of wonderful people like you guys. So we are really appreciative. And as we come on back through here, we're going to pass behind Turkey's enclosure. Looks like she's laying over there by the fence. And we're going to pass over at the photos as well. And you guys, once you go ahead and get stopped, you'll be more than welcome to get those changed off the side of the tram. And I'll go grab the gate for us so we can head back up into the discovery area. I'm going to pass out these true sanctuary checklists here if anyone wants to take one of those. And if anyone has any questions for me at all, please don't hesitate to stop me and ask. But again, thank you guys so much for coming out today. I really hope you enjoyed the tour. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes,
sir. Two, and they were, I don't remember the exact breakdown of what they were. It's high gone, lie gone. You said the pen is empty. What happened to them? Because I know their life expectancy. You go around
The first ones you go around that had the empty pen that used to have.
That had we had a white tiger in there named Frankie. Yes, in the past. That was.
I thought you had a hybrid in there too.
Not in that one.
Okay.
I don't believe so. And before that, even Frankie, that one shared with another orange tiger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Are
I
you
think that one
confused
is-
as to who's where?
It can get confusing when you guys come. You know,
Can I-
you've been here a few times, so it's hard. They move around. You know, sometimes they pass, so it's hard to keep track of
Robbie
them.
was really frisky this morning. That's
Oh,
what
I
it is.
know.
Early in the morning, yeah.
Can I look at the tiger teeth and the nail one more time?
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
This is
So it's not
Teeth?
real, but
Oh,
yeah, it's a replica. Yeah, that's the tooth,
mm-hmm.
and that's the claw there.
Wow. So they're not real.
Yeah, no,
Just,
not real, but true to look in size.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Mhm. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, did you get one? You got one of these yesterday.